can tell you something, only in India do numbers have a meaning other than anything to do with that particular number, and one of the favorites in India is 420. In this case, it means something completely different. It's the total number of runs that was scored in Hamilton, 420 runs for the loss of 10 wickets. What a game we had. Yes, India finished second best, but you'll have to say it was entertaining, and at the very end, it was heartbreaking for India. It's not going to be 11 consecutive unbeaten series, but, well, on Cricbuzz Live, as we try and assess that, you know, we talked about that earlier game with just under 400. 420 was a treat, but right at the end.
Most batsmen played their part, actually. In a run chase like this, often it requires one innings. We've sat here in the Cricbuzz studio over the years, we've sat in commentary boxes and said Rohit Sharma has played the defining innings. When you're 35 of 30, you then have to finish it with, say, 60 or 45, which didn't happen. And I think eventually that made the difference. But it was still a gallant run chase.
It certainly was. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things you knew that he was probably going to get going, but perhaps influenced by the fact that Shankar started playing beautifully and Rishabh Pant played only like Rishabh Pant can. And he just didn't manage to change gear at the right time.
I think it was even game. Yeah. You know, the differentiator was fielding. You know, we spoke about the small things doing right today. India was just short on that, ticking that box of fielding. And that's something which showed. If you look at the strike rates also, you know, most of the batsmen have played their part. Like, you know, you needed someone to anchor the innings. You know, you look at the platform which we're talking about, it was set beautifully. 3 wickets in 3 overs at that stage. Daryl Mitchell picking those 2 wickets. I think Dhoni also looking to put, he had identified Daryl Mitchell as a bowler who he can go after. Didn't work today, but those 3 wickets changed the momentum for New Zealand. You know, they got back in the game after that strong platform which was set by Vijay Shankar, Rishabh Pant and Rohit. I think those 3 wickets got them back in the game. But I think the real differentiator was the fielding. Indian fielding was a bit down today.
Just a quick word, and because we are showing you this innings progression, that required rate in that middle period needed to be just a little bit higher to make sure that you didn't need 13, 14, 15 to finish.
Just a little bit higher, but it's amazing how often when you're chasing runs like this, it does come down to 14, 15 of the last 5 overs. 12.6 of the last 5 overs at 63 of 5. It's not a bad run chase at all. The interesting thing is, how would the dressing room take Karthik refusing the single? Because Dhoni has done it in the past, because he's backed himself to win a game. It was 14 of 3. It would have been 13 of 3. How do you think dressing room would react to Karthik saying, "I'll finish it"? Because Krunal Pandya has run all the way and come back.
And also
you've got to take it, isn't it?
Not good.
Yeah, you've got to take it.
I think you, even though you have that belief of you going to finish the game, at that stage, when you have a batsman batting with you, I don't think it reflects well. It shows that, yes, you know, maybe you are looking at that situation and scenario saying that, okay, I'm going to back myself to get those runs. But so was Krunal. Krunal also was batting at a good strike rate. At that stage, you have to take every single run whichever comes your way.
Yeah, let me 13 from 3.
One more aspect to it. I mean, if you had Bhuvaneshwar Kumar or somebody else at the other end, you have to say, I'm the only one who can do it. But if you've got someone who's striking at 209, just hit a lovely 6 in the previous over, you've got to...
It's just that sometimes you get into a zone. He probably just got into that zone thinking, I'm going to win it. And you do that sometimes, but I'm not sure it made such a big difference as it turns out, because we saw what happened on the next 2 balls. But yeah, you run for those, but don't let it take away from a magnificent innings. I mean, what is Karthik's made 33 of 16, Krunal's made 26 of 13. They were just left. Both played their part. They just had too much left to do at the end.
It reminded me of a PSL game that I was watching some time ago, and Karen Pollard was playing a Dinesh Karthik-like innings. At the other end, strangely, there was a spin bowling all-rounder in Imad Wasim, who also had hit a 6 the previous over. He can bat, and Pollard refused a single. Wasim was really upset. It was not a run chase. They were setting a score. In the next over, in the last over of the innings, when Pollard got out, Imad Wasim hit 3 sixes. And he pointed his bat at Karen Pollard.
Krunal should have hit 2 and gone and bought Karthik a drink.
But one more differentiating factor you'll have to say, and that is the fact that New Zealand had options to turn to. 5 overs for 62 is what the spinners went for. Ish Sodhi and Mitchell Santner. Have a look at this. Ish Sodhi normally would have bowled his 5 4 overs out, 2 overs for 30. Santner did his job bowling the opening over, took 2 wickets, but he did not need to turn to him. That was the big difference.
Yeah, they had 6 proper bowlers and didn't use Colin Grano. I'd forgotten about Daryl Mitchell when we did the Cricbuzz combox. I think this is a really good spell. When you come in as the 6th bowler in an 11 runs, almost 11, 10.8 runs in over run chase, and you can see 9 and over 3 overs, you've done really well, and picked up those 2 wickets.
Yeah, two important wickets.
Yeah.
I think Santner was pick of the bowlers today. He really set the tone. It's not easy bowling to being a left-arm spinner, bowling to left-handed batsman. Got that wicket of Shikhar Dhawan in the power play, set the tone. I think on the whole, you look at the bowling options also, which you're talking about. Kuggeleijn was also really good.
Yeah,
he bowled. Kept his nerve in those pressure situations, and Dinesh Karthik also hit him for that 6. After that, he backed himself really well with that slower one. So the thinking was correct, the planning was correct, and holding the nerves under pressure is what matters in these close run chases.
Now, once you've forgotten the little nuances of how Krunal Pandya might react or the dressing room might react, on a cricketing front, once you put away the disappointment, you'll have to look at the positives. Of course, Pant was there on display, and as was Karthik at the end with Krunal Pandya. But let's not forget Vijay Shankar. He started out maybe with a strike rate around 110, 120. But when he needed to go, he went 6, 6, 4 and out.
Yes. I mean, you've got to ask yourself if at any stage you can have a strike rate of 110 in a run chase that is almost 200. Well, about a 180 kind of run chase. Can you afford to have a batsman at 110? That he made good was good for him, but you can have a situation where if you are at that stage and you don't make good, then you've used up the deliveries, as happened today with Rohit Sharma. So I don't think in a 180 kind of run chase, 180, 190 run chase, a batsman can be 110 or 120 for too long, because then you're starting to use up deliveries and you're getting into a situation where you have no option but to correct what you've done. So, given that India had 8 batsmen, maybe that phase, India could have got a little bit more in the Vijay Shankar, Rohit Sharma phase.
Which means you're suggesting a possible Rishabh Pant coming in earlier, as he did in the previous game.
I thought so. Look, Vijay Shankar's batted well, but yeah, maybe Rishabh Pant at 3. So, as I said, as it turned out, Vijay Shankar's corrected himself, but I just thought in those early overs, they took, those 2-3 overs might have made a difference.
But still enough positives for you to take out.
Loads.
I mean, you forget the fact that the 11 didn't happen. You're still looking individually, you're looking at that World Cup, and small little moments here can almost tell you who's mentally ready and who's not.
I think I'm liking the thought process and the processes which have been followed. Like there was a process even when Vijay Shankar came into bat.
Yeah.
It was a very conscious decision that okay, if there is an early wicket, then Vijay Shankar is going to walk. If you have a good partnership at the start, then Rishabh Pant is going to go. This is something which has been a common practice by Indian team in last couple of years. Like they have created a skeleton, and people are playing roles around that. So you've been even though there are changes in the team, even though new faces are coming in, but they've stuck to that process, a formula which has been working for them. I think that is good to see. And that is something which is bringing success consistently. Yes, it's a different story that this series they've not managed to win, but they played good cricket. In the manner which they've approached this run chase also was very good. They didn't look panicked. That's the most important thing. They were always in control of the situation and the run chase. You are going to end up on the winning side more often than not if you have this kind of approach. So that is something which was good to see.
To close those numbers, look at Vijay Shankar 43 of 28, Rohit Sharma 38 of 32. That's half the innings between them. Half the innings between them for 81 runs. That means you've got the other half has to make 131 runs to win. That was the point I make. When you're making 212, you've got to be close or thereabouts, because you put too much. So look what everyone else has had to do. Pant 233, Hardik Pandya 190. They had no time. They had to go straight away. Karthik 206, Krunal 200.
And they pretty much did. But again, something Zaheer mentioned the other day, when you're setting yourself up for something like a World Cup, you can have all the net practice you want, and whenever you eavesdrop on net practices, you can see the coach comes and says, okay, 10 of 2, and somebody comes in and bowls. But
to have something like this as match practice in a match situation is invaluable.
It is, except they don't want your bowlers to concede those many in the first place. but yeah, it is. It's invaluable. As I said, I mean, Rohit has won you games so many times. So one day is the off day. As you said, the game plan was not wrong. That Rohit bats through.
Yeah.
So Rohit had got to a stage where he had now to finish the game. And then he played, he got a miss it. So the idea that Rohit would bat through to the end and then pick up from there was not bad, provided Rohit had then started to score at 200 from there on. So if Rohit had played another 20 balls and got 40, then he would have ended up with 78 or 52, which is a 150 kind of strike rate.
Yeah, and again, if you look at it, summarizing this match, in context of the ODIs to come and the T20s to come against Australia, where would you place India in context of 2019 as things stand right now?
Well, things are looking really bright. You know, the momentum as you often call it and see it, it's pretty much in India's favor. I mean, it's so good that at times you feel that, okay, is this team peaking too early for the World Cup? You know, you're actually starting to think like that. I hope not. Because the processes which we've seen so far has been followed to the T. You know, it looks like the routines are so strong. You know, the talks and the practices, how they're going about it, they're much more relaxed in terms of approaching the matches and the whole season. So that's fingers crossed. You know, they'll continue with the same kind of momentum. So going forward to the World Cup, I think this team is going to continue the consistency which they've shown so far.
And you can see that this was obviously the run chase is the business end of the match, as it were. We never really saw heads drop, and the only time perhaps when a couple of catches were dropped, we saw a couple of slaps in the head from Hardik Pandya, and he was a poor victim this time.
One day he'll be unlucky. I mean, he was as unlucky today. One day he'll bowl worse than this and pick up more wickets.
But just to finish off on the point that he said, you know, if this is the state, even when you've lost a game, you can turn around and tell yourself, well, if this is how we're going to play, then we certainly are.
Yeah, but you can't lose sight of the fact that you ended up losing the series. That has to be paramount. On the day, if you have scored fewer runs than the opposition, they've played better than you at various levels. So you've got to figure out where that is, whether on a flat day, Krunal Pandya is your bowler. I know he's just one game away from having won man of the match. So you get days like these. On small grounds, the home team knows the angles. They know exactly how to approach it. They probably, if they were chasing, would not have gone through a quiet phase in sort of 6 to 10. So that happens. When you've conceded 200, you get these days.
So let me put you on the spot. I know we are a few days away, but if the World Cup were to start in 3 days' time, do you make India favourites?
Oh yeah, I think longer the game better. The longer the game, the better the chance for the better team to win. So I think over 50 overs, India is a better side than New Zealand. As we saw in home conditions, India won 4-1. So I agree with Zach that of all the teams today, I think India and England, maybe to some extent South Africa, they played good cricket recently. India, England, South Africa are ready to play the World Cup just now.
Yes, and England obviously have a few mental challenges with what's been happening with their red ball cricket, but obviously they'll have to put that aside.
Yeah, I have no idea what's happening with the red ball cricket. It is so difficult to understand that you must not even try understanding it. There's someone who's man of the series, suddenly he's batting at 7-8, there's someone who's batting at 3, then he becomes a keeper, he goes from 3 to 7, the previous man of the series is gone, somebody else is batting at 3, it's all over. A poor young man who can't put bat to ball is suddenly recalled to open the batting, and it's torture for him, so I don't know what's happening there.
Yeah, and somebody like Joe Root, who was 56, 57, his batting average has now fallen under 50. And
Bob Willis said it best. Bob Willis is becoming, one of those angry old men, but in a very funny kind of way. He said England is at the moment one batsman wants to bat at 4 and everybody else wants to bat at 7. which is a strange, yeah. I mean, everybody wants to bat down the order. So who's got to bat up the order? Which is why I keep saying the biggest opportunity lost in 2018 was that Test series against England when you had them 80 for 6 and we lost and India kept losing.
Fair enough. We'll try not to go backwards. We'll continue to go forwards. Not England 2018, but England 2019. Our focus remains there. And India's next challenge is going to be up against Australia. Yes, you've forgotten about Australia and New Zealand in their backyard, and now you're going to welcome them February 24, 2019 series starts with the T20 internationals, goes on to 5
Why
ODIs.
the T20 international? I know their box office, and it's great for networks and everybody. But if the focus is the World Cup, why are you playing 2 T20s?
I guess
it's great fun. It's just great fun.
It is. Maybe you're easing them in because you've just finished with the T20s in New Zealand. Sort of keep that momentum going and work your way into.
They've rescheduled it actually, right? T20s were later, and then now they're
getting the 2 T20s out and playing the 5 ODIs.
Yep. Let's just look at the Australia squad with Ricky Ponting as a new addition, not in the squad, as part of the coaching staff coming in there. Let's show you exactly who's coming to India. Remember, no Mitchell Starc. That's going to be the big news. Darcy Short is in there, but he's in there provisionally, so he'll go back as and when Sean Marsh comes in. How much are they going to miss someone like Mitchell Starc, not just in terms of winning or losing that series, in terms of his whole build-up to the World Cup?
Because he's hardly played any white ball cricket. So he's only played test match cricket, and he's invaluable for them at the World Cup. So they'll desperately want him to play some white ball cricket. I'm told that this recent injury might put him in doubt for the 5 games against Pakistan, immediately after India as well.
Oh.
So
for Mitchell Starc?
For Mitchell Starc.
Okay.
Yeah. So he may not have played that much white ball cricket going into the World Cup, and if KKR had retained him, it would be another case of the runaway bride. Again, he'd have missed the World Cup. He's the runaway bride of the IPL. But this team, that's why then Jason Behrendorff gets an opportunity. Jai Richardson's a good bowler. Kane Richardson's had a big bash. I like Nathan Coulter-Nile.
Nathan Coulter-Nile, I was about to say, yes.
He had vertigo now at the big bash. He's had vertigo, so he walked off the field. He bowled 5 balls, got vertigo, bowled a ball that went for 6 and walked off. He's always unfit, poor fellow.
Oh.
Would you like him as a bowler? You take him to the World Cup if he was fit? Yeah.
He will be. Yeah. He should be part of the World Cup, according to me. He'll still be around. Another key factor for them is Mitchell Marsh as well. Like he's someone who has not been playing, but has got that impact. What we're talking about, that 6, 7, 8. That's something which Australian
and the extra bowling option whenever you require.
Which is what they've given to Stoinis now. I think they've given that spot to Marcus Stoinis now. Yeah.
But I've always thought vertigo is something you get from a great height. Australians are not exactly at those dizzying heights anymore.
But he's a tall fellow. He's a tall fellow, yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, that's the series that is going to be coming up. And of course, we are going to be looking at Australia's squad for the World Cup as far as our experts are concerned. Let's just show you all our experts. There's Ajay Jadeja, Harsha Bhogle, Zaheer Khan, Simon Dool, also from centre stage in New Zealand. And they're going to be bringing us all their World Cup squads. Of course, we want all of you to bring yours in. Hashtag My World Cup Squad. It's not just India. We want to complete all the teams. Now, we're going to get to Zaheer Khan's 15 to start with. Zaheer, you're up first for a change.
Because it's an interesting one, that's why.
All right. You've got some X factors in there?
Yeah, because there's no Smith and Warner there.
No Smith and Warner in your team?
I think the confusion has been going on too long. Smith being injured as well. Might be the selectors will probably go in this direction. Darcy Short coming back.
Their place back.
Yeah. So there's not enough time now for them to come and for a tournament like World Cup, you don't want players coming off injuries. Having a patchy form and especially. In case of Smith and Warner, what they've been through, it's not going to be an easy comeback. I feel at the international level. So rest of the team remains the same. I think Coulter-Nile is someone who I feel will get a nod for the World Cup squad. Jai Richardson has to some degree killed the chances of Joss Hazlewood going there. Is what my feeling is. Because that changes the balance as well. Jai Richardson has really looked good, can contribute with the bat as well. So you have Australian team batting really deep. You have Pat Cummins. If you get Coulter-Nile also there, you have Mitchell Starc who can also contribute with the bat, and Jai Richardson also can contribute. So that achieves that balance which we are looking at. Like most of the teams are giving importance to that 7, 8, 9 number as well. With regard to contribution with the bat, that gives them luxury to play Maxwell for longer time. Even though he's not been successful, they can still have that cushion of playing him for longer than what they are actually planning.
So no Smith and Warner for Zaheer Khan, but we did mention Ricky Ponting being back in the scheme of things. World Cup winning captain is going to be in that dressing room. What does he have to say about Australia's strengths going ahead there? India and England, probably the two standout teams right now. We all agree on that. But if you add Warner and Smith back into that lineup, I think that team looks as strong as any. So if Ricky Ponting sitting in that dressing room, he's going to get them in by hook or by crook.
I would imagine, because we saw them play without Smith and Warner and they looked completely lost. So the temptation would be to get them in. Now this becomes a management decision. As in terms of ability, there's no doubting that they come back in, but they're both coming off injuries and they're both coming off
surgeries.
Yes, in fact, of surgeries. They're both coming off surgeries and they're both coming off T20 cricket, of not the highest standard of T20 cricket. So it's going to be a tricky one. I think, I mean, if I was picking the side, I'd want them in my side simply because I think it would lift the side. And if they got a month's preparation, then they would get in. So I've put them in. I've worked on the assumption that they will get in. I've worked on the assumption that if they're all fit to play the last 2 1-days against Pakistan, so they'll have about a month and a half. Remember, the first game is around the 24th, 25th, around the 30th of May or 1st of June. Is their first game. If they're fit by April, they've still got a month and a half of preparation. So I've got Warner and Finch, which was the 2015 opening partnership again, and Smith was 3. Sean Marsh, Hanscom also doubles in as a second wicket keeper. Alex Carey, the advantage with Carey is they used him as an opener, but you can bat him anywhere. They'll probably bat him at 5. And then you've got Maxwell and Stoinis to provide 20 overs between them, and that big firepower at 6 and 7. I've got Darcy Short as the reserve. I wasn't sure about Nathan Lyon, but I think Stark, Cummins and Richardson make the side. I don't know about the fitness of either Coulter-Nile or Hazelwood going in there. I like Nathan Coulter-Nile very much. He's a great athlete. He can tong the ball at the end. There's a bit of batting in there, and the longer the game, I think the better bowler he is in a 10-over spell. And I'm not sure about Nathan Lyon and Ashton Agar, because Nathan Lyon is a quality bowler, but I don't know on those grounds whether he'd become too one way. He doesn't get a ball that drifts away. He bowls the same ball. So there's a big debate in Australia as well about whether to have Nathan Lyon or no. So I think I'll go Nathan Lyon out of those two. And if I had a choice, I'd probably go Nathan Coulter-Nile.
Now, our experts on Cricbuzz Live, Ricky Ponting as well, all agree that India and England will be the two favourites, the host nation, and India playing wonderful cricket. But where do Australia stand at this stage once again? Let's assume with Smith and Warner in and with them playing at a decent level, would you still put them in that semi-final
I think
spot?
there's 5 teams that should back themselves to make the semi-final, and if the West Indies do well, even more so. Sri Lanka, Zimbabwe, Afghanistan, I'm not as convinced. That's India, Pakistan, South Africa, Australia, England. I'm not sure. New Zealand in that same league.
Yeah.
So 4 out of those 6 is what I'm gunning for. Currently, I don't think Australia are in those 4 in my book.
Assuming
I think Pakistan are the dark horses.
Okay, you've already thrown out Stephen Smith and David Warner, but again, let's go with the assumption that maybe they find their way into the squad. How would you place them? Because the thing is, if you can make a semi-final, then it's just 2 games to win a World Cup.
The worrying or the concerning factor for Australian team is your coach is going in one direction, and the assistant coach who is going to join is going in different direction. So that's something which is going to be interesting to see how who convinces who. So if Justin Langer is saying that the players have to earn their position, earn their spots, so there's not enough time for Warner and Smith to come back. But in terms of ability wise and giving that boost, maybe Ricky Ponting is right. But we'll have to wait and see where exactly
23rd
the team is
April, I
heading.
think, is when you have to pick the side. 23rd
1
April.
month prior, yes.
Yeah, 23rd April, you have to pick the side. Now, suppose they're only ready with maybe 1 or 2 1-days to play. If you were Australia, would you almost want them to play the IPL? Play the IPL till the 23rd of, play almost the entire IPL and then go to...
depending on their injury status.
Yeah.
So that is adding another layer to it for the discussion to go. If they're fit, yes. If they're fit, because if you've not played for a year and the baggage which you're carrying of that 1 year, You know, it's not only just about going out there and performing. It's also the mental side also which is going to come into play. That even the other teams are going to go after them with regard to the sandpaper gate and in the media also. So that also adds to the whole
bowlers
pressure.
on your panel. Always have bowlers on your panel.
But just to look ahead at this particular series that's up and coming, because one thing's for sure, no matter whether they're in the World Cup squad or not, they're not coming to India. So the fact is Australia will want to tune up with as many players who are in that World Cup squad as possible. So from both Australia's and India's point of view, just a overview of what we can expect.
See, the 3 is a big slot for Australia. And if they're Khwaja there at number 3 for these 5 games, then they've got to be thinking of Khwaja at the World Cup, which is why it's probably in Zach's team. So also what we saw during the India-Australia one day is they weren't quite sure of whose role was what and who's got to get them moving again. It doesn't help that Marsh is available for a little while, not available for a little while. There's too much volatility around this side for an Australian fan to feel comfortable.
But let's come to India.
Yes.
I just want a word from both of you on India, because we know one of the talking points will be who are the 15 that they put out there, and maybe they'll split it between 3 and 2 ODIs.
Yeah.
KL Rahul will be one of those in focus.
In fact, MSK Prasad did an interview yesterday, I think, the chairman of the directors, where he said we are almost ready, which is what we've been saying on this program as well. I think they've got 17 players in their list, 17, max 18 in that list. So I'd like to see a little more of Umesh Yadav. I'd like to see a lot more of Rishabh Pant, KL Rahul, and I definitely like to see a little more of Dinesh Karthik. You can't suddenly tell Dinesh Karthik, sorry, we didn't give you enough chances, but now we don't want you in the side. So they've got to look at Dinesh Karthik as well. Do you think you want to rest Rohit?
And to add to the list which you just mentioned, I think Vijay Shankar.
Vijay Shankar, there you go. So probably got 19 from us to pick 15.
Yeah.
Raidu as well.
That's where they are.
We've seen enough.
Right now, it's again going back to the same thing. That there's only that 1 or 2 spots which are up for grabs, and now Vijay Shankar certainly in that race for sure. He's looked good. He's been very impressive right throughout the series, and you can actually in a longer format ODIs you can consider him as bowler as well. Who can give you 4 overs. Depending on the situation, if you use him smartly, so that opens up another option as well. And in England, in maybe some games, you might have overcast conditions where you can think of these options as well.
So let's see how many are fixed, right? Rohit is in, Shikhar is in, Virat is in, MS Dhoni is in, Ambati Rayudu is in, Kedar Jadhav is probably in. So now you have 2 slots left. For those 2 slots, you've got Vijay Shankar, who I think is a good counter to Kedar Jadhav if you think you need an extra seamer. But I think Vijay Shankar or Dinesh Karthik will be in 1 slot, and KL Rahul or Rishabh Pant will probably fight for 1 slot. That's my reading at this stage.
Just a final one. I know we've Virat Kohli got a break in these last few games. Rohit Sharma rest for these.
What do you think?
The series?
I think so. It's been a long tour, so that's something which we might see. Bumrah possibly might not play all the games in Australian ODIs, but they would want to fit in Pant and Vijay Shankar for sure. So that's something. Even Virat, for that matter, I don't think he'll be playing all the matches.
Fair enough.
Is what my feeling is.
Player to play the daddy role for a bit, Rohit Sharma?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he'll have to play the daddy role. He's not seen his child very much, has he?
No, he hasn't.
Yeah. So he popped by, saw the little pink blob, as all babies are, and then went back.
At least it's not yet talking, because once that happens, then it's the danger of whether it calls you daddy or uncle. So that's the worry you need to have.
Look who's talking.
Okay. Where did I walk into that one?
Yeah.
Right, that was a strange bit you were talking about. Well, lots of strangeties we can talk about. We had a little bit of a discussion with Dinesh Karthik and Krunal Pandya and what they must be chatting about right now. Australia will look a strange team if they don't have David Warner and Steve Smith in that World Cup. But on that subject, we've also got our own little special here on Cricbuzz. It's our Stranger 11. We had a fun issue for the first week. For our second week, we were trying to get a sense of whether the fatigue factor during the IPL vis-a-vis the World Cup might just be a factor. Here's a little preview.
Should the Indian cricket team play the IPL just before the World Cup?
I think they have to play. They don't really have a choice, isn't it? World Cup is the World Cup. IPL விட நமக்கு வந்து வேர்ல்ட் கப் ரொம்ப மெயின். The more the merrier. I don't think break matters as much.
I should not get injured on that day.
But that can happen in training also.
Hear the real voices on Stranger 11. Catch a new episode every week on Cricbuzz.
It's going to be a bit of fun, Stranger 11, going forward. We've got so many issues to talk about, and sometimes you don't want to look at an issue too hard and too intensely. You need to be a little bit light-hearted, and even while being light-hearted, the real issues ultimately come out from inside.
And it's good to hear what the fans say. I mean, how funny were those children in the first episode of Stranger 11? But you must give Dhoni milk, otherwise he will get weak bones. I mean, the last person who's got to worry about that. So I like, you've got to go around and get the mood of the fans. So I like that.
But at least, I mean, on a serious note, it's an issue that people will talk about in terms of, not obviously, I mean, we were putting it in a more fun way, saying should they even play the IPL. The question is individuals and workloads.
Well, individuals have to manage their workloads. that's the bottom line. You can have all the help, but bottom line is you have to manage your body. You have to manage what kind of workloads you have, and how you're going to go about your rest recovery practices, and play as much as possible. Like I've always been a believer of that fact. Like I never used to enjoy missing matches, be it for injuries or otherwise.
I like the way he put it into perspective. I said individual and workloads. He added the words in between. Individuals have to manage workloads. Remind me of Calvin and Hobbes. That we've always heard of necessity is the mother of invention. Calvin concluded that mothers are the necessity of invention.
Yes, I agree 100%. The things mothers do, no one else can do. But I agree completely with Zach. It's very easy to say don't play the IPL, but you could get injured playing a Ranji Trophy match, right? You could get injured playing the Australia One Day Series. So at what point do you stop playing? So I see no harm in playing the IPL. As you say, if you can manage your workload, if you get up one morning and think, look, I'm not right, you tell the team I'm not right, you manage your workload, but you have to play because IPL is a pressure tournament, and there's no better preparation for a tournament than playing high pressure cricket.
Certainly isn't. And speaking of mothers, well, we had the mother of all questions this time from Joy Bhattacharya. He just sort of went in this arc from easy to tougher and tougher. Let's remind you of what he had for us today. Something apparently completely unrelated. Colin Croft, Travis Friend, John Travolta, Biju Patnaik. Well, that's a lot of, it's a huge variety. Now, what is the connection between one of them? And I knew that at least Colin Croft gave me the answer. They're all trained pilots. Anyone who's had the pleasure of meeting Colin Croft, not across 22 yards, but after he retired, he would never let you forget that he is a trained pilot. Now, the other big question, Sharat Shetty. I know, I checked the feed. He has answered it correctly. But the question is, was he the first? And the answer is, no! We have a new winner, Jatin Khandelwal. Well done. Oh, you must have just squeezed it because Sharat Shetty came up with the right answer, but he came in, I think, about 90 seconds too late on hashtag Cricbuzz Live.
It was a generation thing. Our generation would have got that immediately. Because there was so much talk about John Travolta, there was so much talk about Colin Croft. Travis Friend played around that time, so probably someone who's 20, 25 today doesn't have a reason to have heard of Travis Friend either. So I think it was a generation thing. I think Joy said it for our generation.
Yes, and it takes that much longer to search for it. Yeah. So if you know it, you're immediately on with the answer.
Good question. I mean, all these youngsters know so much more than us, so it's okay once in a while for us to know more.
Excellent question. Have you ever been flown by somebody who you knew but was...
No.
No?
Never really.
It could feel strange. I know the Graham Creamer's wife is
the Zimbabwe player, Graham Creamer.
Yeah, Graham Creamer, the captain. She used to fly the entire Zimbabwe team. She was a pilot with Air Zimbabwe. So
everybody saw to it that they were in Creamer's good books.
Absolutely, they were in Creamer's good books.
Okay, who else is a pilot? John Gloucester's wife is a pilot.
There you go.
Physio, John Gloucester's wife is a pilot.
Yeah, we've talked about flying, we've talked about vertigo, the things we talk about on Cricbuzz Live, but yet we had never lose sight of the cricket. Thank you very much for the entire series. It's been a pleasure. Zaheer Khan, Harsha Bhogle. And of course, we'll see all of you. Keep in those issues coming. Give us all the inputs you want. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live is open, alive and kicking throughout. Australia coming to visit. We will be back larger than life not from too high in case we get vertigo. But until we see you then, keep watching.